Aloha everyone, hope you're having a glorious day. We are going on a journey to the end of time. This is God's revelation to His Son, Jesus Christ. And Jesus told His disciple, His faithful apostle, to write this down so that we can read, study, and learn it. Read along as we dive in to chapter 18. Because Babylon is destroyed. Remember, Babylon is the Antichrist's prostitute. It's the Antichrist whore. It's the great city of injustice. If you've ever experienced or seen injustice, exploitation in the world, and thought to yourself, that just is not right. Today, we will see how God deals with this whore of Babylon. Let's see what she has to say for herself. I rule as queen and am no widow. I will never experience grief. Here is a woman scorned who will receive a taste of her own medicine. In fact, a double portion of what she dished out. But this couldn't be relevant to today's church. This couldn't be relevant to our culture. This is for Rome, for the time of John's time. Well, let me submit to you Glennon Doyle, who has written a new, quotation fingers, Christian bestseller book titled Untamed. This defiance of the whore of Babylon is echoed, even heralded, as a battle cry for all women in her book. She resents the creation story of Eve and implications for all women being like a caged animal. See, Eve was not wrong, as Glennon Doyle would say, for eating the fruit and defining good and evil for herself. It was just her curiosity. Women should be free to do whatever feels good. Well, let's see how this defiance works out for the whore of Babylon. First, God must remove all the obstructions on earth to set up His kingdom on earth. So Babylon goes down in these chapters 17 and 18. The two beasts from chapters 13 must be removed. Rebellious humanity in the final battle removed. Satan removed. And everything, including the present creation, removed for a decreation through judgment and a new creative act. But let's focus in on the fall of Babylon. Last chapter, in chapter 17, we learned John sees the prostitute Babylon. And in 18, John hears the announcement of judgment on Babylon and the responses of various groups to her fall. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn for her because no one buys their cargo any longer. They can no longer exploit the nations, the people of the world. Its cargo such as gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, scarlet cloth, all sorts of things made of citron wood, all sorts of objects made of ivory, all sorts of things made of expensive wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, perfumed ointment, frankincense, wine, olive oil, and costly flour, wheat, cattle, and sheep, horses and four-wheeled carriages. Here, we learn of a list of items needed to set up the Lord's temple that Solomon built. Satan builds his temple for the nations to worship exploitation. And Babylon's merchandise are slaves and human lives. The merchant tycoons can be heard mourning because they no longer benefit off her economy and her commerce. We are reminded of the oracles against Tyre for idolatry, pride, and greed, and against Babylon in Ezekiel and Isaiah. This is an essential, this is especially poignant for the churches like Laodicea. We learned about Laodicea in chapter 3. And Laodicea was compromised to Rome. So what about the churches of today? What about the churches who are culturally compromised, who are politically compromised, socially they're compromised, economically compromised, theologically compromised? They don't believe in the Bible anymore. God is not only calling out the church, this call is for the nations to avoid the double portion of judgment this whore gets. Her policy of self-sufficiency, seated as a queen, will reap God's judgment of wrath, the seventh vial. And the final voice is a mighty angel throwing a millstone to sink this whore to the bottom of the sea. So what this says is humble yourself like a child. Don't be like the arrogant whore of Babylon who causes others to sin. Because the Antichrist's prostitute is sunk to the bottom of the sea.